Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports appeared on 102.5 The Game in Nashville, Tennessee. They're very hot on the Kevin Stefanski train there. They'd like Kevin to be their new head coach, which is interesting because he's still the Browns head coach to this point. And so Charles was asked point blank, could Kevin Stefanski leave Cleveland, maybe head on yonder to Tennessee?
Like, if you ask me out of that group who could end up in Tennessee, I mean, maybe Stefanski could. But I also think Stefanski knows if I get another shot after Cleveland, it's better be a good one because I can't suffer this twice. I can't go into two bad organizations twice in terms of like the ownership and like what the sum of the parts end up being. So I'm sure he would be pretty reticent.
I mean, there just aren't enough jobs, Nick, but he should be very peculiar about where he goes, or particular about where he goes, because the Titans are a bad organization.
Yeah, they're actually worse than the Browns
like, that ownership doesn't know. I mean, she just goes ahead and just fires anybody at any given reason, and then it makes no sense, and they keep alternating every year about who they fire.
What is it, 7? No, is it 9 head coach, interim GMs, and football presidents since December of 2022?
And they also fired Mike Vrabel, which should tell you anything you need to know about this situation. Yeah. Like, when Mike Vrabel can't succeed there, it's going to be the deck is stacked against a lot of people.
I would be shocked if Kevin went from Cleveland to Nashville.
You just can't. Like, go be an offensive coordinator. The Titans aren't it. The Titans aren't it. Cam Ward, it doesn't appear to be it. They're set up horribly with their ownership. Like, you're going to fail if you go to the Titans. I can all but promise you're going to fail.
Wouldn't hate that, though, because then we wouldn't have to worry about Kevin being good somewhere else.
I'm really not concerned about that. I know some fans are. I'm just not.
By the way, that happens sometimes in sports. What's more important is that you get your head coach right, not that suddenly Kevin Stefanski goes somewhere else and looks like Pat Shurmur did after he got another head coaching job.
If he ends up being Belichick or something like that, I will be very, very surprised if that ends up being the case, but it wasn't going to happen here then.
So if he ends up lucking into the greatest quarterback of all time?
I just say, you gave him 6 years to try to figure it out. He wasn't even close here so far.
Here's another interesting bit of sound that we got, and it was Charles Robinson. Again, the whole united front thing, thought partners with the Cleveland Browns. We've been wondering, all right, how aligned are they really? Charles had a really interesting, but I think predictable answer on the state of things between Stefanski and Andrew Berry.
2 or 3 weeks ago, they said, "Hey, is Kevin on the hot seat?" And I said, no way. I said, he and Andrew Berry, I said, they're good. They're on lock. Then they traded Flacco. And Stefanski comes out, and I'll never forget listening to that press conference. And I was texting the guys. I'm like, "You listen to us right now?" Like, he put it on Andrew. Like, he was like, "Look, I trust Andrew." It's like he kept saying it like over and over again. And I'm like, yeah, I know Kevin did not want to create an environment where he had this veteran quarterback and who he wanted to continue starting. But at the very least, if he wasn't going to start him and he had a rookie starting, he wanted to make sure he had the veteran in the number 2 position, the support role. And then now that guy's playing for the Bengals. And, you could tell, I'm like, this feels like there's a tiny bit of separation now between the head coach and the general manager. And since that press conference, I'm kind of like, yeah, this feels different. This feels like there's a little bit of a gap there.
So Charles is really smart to frame this on that first press conference where we all heard the obvious.
It was weird. It was incredibly weird, and we'll talk about it probably years from now, being like, that was that Tuesday press conference and how just abnormal it was.
Now, here's what's really interesting. Charles has been one of the guys that is incredibly plugged in Berea. Mm-hmm. So while he does not specify beyond this, I'm going to go ahead and say, since he heard that press conference, he's checked in with his people in Cleveland. So I don't think it's a coincidence we're hearing this now, because one of the, at points, criticisms I've made about Kevin Stefanski is that he is incredibly, he gets his messaging out there. He gets what he wants out there, including what is said about him. He helped shape the narrative of woe is Kevin, and Jimmy Haslam is this, and this, that, and the other. But we haven't heard the narrative of there's a gap or there's a split there. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say that Charles, who is as connected as you can possibly be, I would say if he had heard something to the contrary, and he's close to the situation in Berea, he's got contacts in that building, he wouldn't be saying this.
Something happened. Clearly something happened. That's why Kevin felt and talked the way that he did, and that's why it's been awkward now for about 2.5 weeks. And that's why, honestly, when we talk about this stuff, we are talking about it as if Bert and Ernie isn't a thing, and as if there is some sort of separation between the two, and as if Andrew Berry might make it out and Kevin Stefanski won't, which is not how we ever discussed this partnership.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. This organization, as constructed with Berry and Stefansky, they're not just concerned about how they're viewed in Cleveland. They are concerned about how they're viewed outside of Cleveland. So I would be pretty surprised if at any point it got as bad as it was with Hugh Jackson and Sashi Brown, or Hugh Jackson and John Dorsey. I would be really surprised if it gets to the level of toxicity we've seen Pettin and Farmer, right? They're not going to come out and tell you, oh, I don't trust that guy anymore. That's not how this is going to work. You're going to hear it through the national media first. And then maybe we'll get smatterings of it here locally. But this is, one of the things we almost got into on today's show, or almost put on the rundown, was the combustible environment in Miami and how it compares to here. Because I think if you look at it, you go, wow, Tua said this, and Mike McDaniel's contradicting what a quarterback says. That culture, that situation, there's so much more tension there. I don't think we can make that statement definitively, because I think we're starting to hear from more people saying, yeah, there is a gap there. A gap when it comes to the thought partners. That's as much as you're going to hear about the situation between the two of those before this thing is clearly irrevocably done and somebody's on their way out.
Well, and we always thought that something like this could happen if they got to a point of desperation. I mean, that's when people act desperately, this is the type of stuff that you then have come out, because they were so aligned through so much of this. But again, when you thought your job was 100% safe, everything was copacetic. When you start to wonder and question if that is in fact true, then all of a sudden people start bus tossing other people. Like, things change.
Well, and I thought you were going to say bussin', like the popular,
like how kids do, or bussin' with the boys.
Yes, I thought you were going to go there. No, you didn't, and so then I had to retrieve.
What were you going to say? I can finish it with saying bussin'. Go ahead, and then that's when they were bussin'. We're going to yell at me for being too hip?
No, I just really enjoy you using vernacular. It's so 6'7". Now, why do you do? People on YouTube, can you give them the 6'7" again?
I just did it
because it's more of one of these.
I just did it,
and you're doing one of these.
I just
you're making a pizza.
Well, I scrunch up into it just because it's funny, because I know to get you to laugh is all this.
It's working.
Am I juggling? What am I doing? I don't know. You tell me.
There's
hot plates coming through.
There's another thing you could be doing.
Easy now.
Yeah, I'm just saying, there's multiple things you could be doing there.
You're not going to out-freak this freak.
Many great things. No, I think we're in a really interesting spot. And we continue to come back to the importance of winning on Sunday. Winning allows some of that steam to escape in Berea, allows some of that pressure to go away. And with every loss, that pressure is building. And again, like right now, my official stance is I don't think we'll ever get to a point where it's just so obvious it's uncomfortable for everyone and something has to be done. Because I do think these guys both know they turn things around quickly by taking the high road, both of them. We're close. We're not there yet.
That's what they've always done.
We are close to this thing being as uncomfortable as it could possibly be between two incredibly mature, level-headed human beings in a highly pressurized environment.
I think Kevin Stefanski is an incredibly classy human, but I do think if Stefanski wants to take the gloves off, I think the firepower that he could just throw at this Browns organization while using people in the media instead of it being, hey, Stefanski says this, I think it would surprise a lot of the listeners just how fierce he could make this if he wanted to. I think there's a sleeping dragon there with Stefanski that can be awoke.
Well, and here's the thing. I don't even think
he knows where the bodies are buried, too. And I think that's going to be a scary thing for a lot of those people in that Browns organization, I would imagine.
It's not even about just Stefanski. There's no shortage of people around the NFL, either in the NFL offices, meaning like within front offices around the NFL, or media members who have not forgotten any of the various things that they don't like about Jimmy Haslam.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What is the entire thing? It's been about those poor guys. They got to work for that guy. If one of those guys happens to say, oh, hey, report this, hey, can I tell you about this? Remember that thing we talked about that one time? Let's go live with that.
Well, so the difference between, I think it's important to note this, right? When Hugh Jackson left, remember what Hugh Jackson ended up doing? He told everybody under the sun, I'll speak to you guys in a couple years when my contract allows me to, because he got paid out beyond just his final year, and part of that stipulation was you basically got to stay quiet. Freddie Kitchens went around telling everybody that the moment that his contract was up and he could actually speak, he was going to speak to everybody, and guess what? By the time his contract got to be up, no one cared anymore about the stories. Yeah. 3-4 years, whatever had passed, nobody cared about the stories. The interesting thing about where Stefanski is that Stefanski has a newer contract. Mm-hmm. And so Stefanski would also be under that same little area that these other coaches were in, where they're not going to do their own public tour. They're not going to do their own media tour. They can't speak in the public after this. If they want their money, they're going to have to sign the same thing that Hugh Jackson signed, that Freddie Kitchens signed, that says basically we just don't say a word about the Haslams. But they're so well connected, I promise you, if Stefanski wants to get this thing ugly, he can get this thing ugly.
They have to win on Sunday. And it really feels like whoever loses on Sunday could be in immediate danger. But the Browns have to win on Sunday. I know why the Dolphins have to win on Sunday, because I think they're far closer to firing McDaniel. And I think McDaniel wants it at this point.
Do you think Stefanski wants it at this point?
I don't think he'd hate it. I think he'd rather, I bet you Kevin would rather frame it that he resigns from a job than he gets fired from a job. Whereas Mike McDaniel is just looking for the
There's a lot of money left for him in getting fired.
I think he's confident that he'll get his money one way or another.
I'm glad he feels that confident because, and again, maybe he ends up with the Titans, maybe he ends up with a different team. But like, if I'm Stefanski, when they start speaking this way and you can start saying the separation is happening, it's very hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube. And it feels like the separation's already started to happen and the divide has already started to happen there.
There's one more thing that this points to. I think Kevin knows he's really close to losing that team. And I don't mean that in a mean way. You can't go 1-5, 1-6, 1-7. You can't do that and keep a locker room when you're coming off 3-14 in the wake of the Deshaun thing, and how even if he was forced to play Deshaun Watson beyond when he thought he should last year, it does not matter. Like this is the danger zone for Kevin, and you'll know Kevin has lost that locker room when we get that first full foray. When Kevin's side starts to leak out beyond what Charles Robinson said.